Hello, ladies and gentlemen, 'tis I, Michael A. Grimm, aka the Multi-Voice. I have many voices, but one opinion. And it's still October, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? So that means it's another one of my Multi-Voice-Oween. And also, I hope you guys enjoyed my audio adaptation of Justice League and the Looney Tunes. I mean, it was the best time for me to do an audio adaptation since Warner Brothers ain't gonna do a damn thing about the comic, so they're not gonna do an animated adaptation. They decided to do an they just give Warner Brothers to catch up studios. But I was happy and proud that I had some pretty good voice actors, and even I was really proud to have some of the loyal people who are familiar with the Looney Tunes and the Justice League, and was happy enough to do the audio adaptation. And next month, I'm thinking about doing sort of like a featurette, except it's not gonna be me talking about it. I'm gonna invite my friend who did the other half of the Looney Tunes, Dennis Sun, into the mix. But this time, on this Multi-Voice-Oween, it's going to be a movie review. And action! Isn't this neat? But anyway, one thing I was going to tell you about is, hands up, everybody hates the new 2025 Snow White movie. And the eyes have it. You know, sometimes I always hate it when somebody always bastardize certain movies that doesn't need to be changed in the first place. Sure, it needs to be updated, but not changed. And also, not many people know that Snow White. I'm going to start out with a bit of a history. The history I'm going to tell you about is that back in 1812, the book of Snow White was published back in 1812, and it was written by none other than the Brothers Grimm. No, not the movie! The real Brothers Grimm! Jacob and William Grimm. They were the ones who wrote these fairy tale stories, and Snow White was one of their stories. And the reason why I know about this, well, is it obvious? My name. I'm Michael A. Grimm. So the biggest question of all, am I a descendant of the Brothers Grimm? Maybe. I do inherit their storytelling because I spend my entire life telling stories to people. I'm always been more like a pro when it comes to storytelling. I love telling stories. And of course, and when I do my scripts, I do most of the writing. So, but I don't know if I am a descendant of the Brothers Grimm. So as you see, I'm not the Grimm, I'm a Grimm. But in case any of you are wondering what does the A stand for, it's Anthony. My name is Michael Anthony Grimm, but I prefer A. Grimm for short. And the reason why I want to tell you this about Snow White is because I want to bring out my inner Grimm and tell you my thoughts about it. Except this movie I'm going to tell you about, I'm going to talk about a horror version of the Brothers Grimm because, the version of Snow White, because not many people know that back in 1812 when the book came out, the book itself was pretty dark. When the Brothers Grimm wrote the story, they published a book way before censorship were invented. Nobody didn't even care about, somebody please think of the children! They think, the hell with the children, it's a story! Let them enjoy it! It's like the PG rated movies back in the 80s. Back in the 80s were PG rated movies. They were traumatizing, but still good enough for kids to watch, even though it was traumatizing, but it was entertaining as hell. Unlike the PG rated movies of today, where they pretty much stand for practically G, because they will not get anybody's attention if they were G rated. Go figure, huh? And the horror movie of Snow White I'm going to tell, it's not going to be the 1997 starring Sigourney Weaver Snow White: A Tale of Terror, since I cannot be able to watch that movie because I don't have the right channel for me to watch it. Can't afford the channel to see it. But the other one I'm going to tell you about is the best one that came out in Tubi. Now, I know I say that most of the movies I've seen are available on Tubi, but a couple of years later they're going to be removed. So, right now, I want you to find the movie and watch it while you still can before Tubi decided to remove it. And the movie I'm going to tell you about is, of course, The Death of Snow White. Now, this one, it's gory, it's scary, but it has some good humor in the mix. So it's like my kind of fairy tale kind of story. I mean, if I'm writing a fairy tale story, I would love to put humor into it because I love humor. I grew up with comedy. That's why I'm always been the funny one of the bunch. I mean, everybody knows that I always say something funny. I would make a joke, or, you know, every time when something really scary happens, I like to add something funny into it just to break the ice. So I'm the crypt keeper when it comes to horror stories. But anyway, let's start with the movie, shall we? From the beginning, it starts out there was an evil witch who played by Meredith Bender.
Hey, that's me, Bender. Bite my shiny mail ass.
But she comes into the castle, kills most of the guards, bewitched some of them, until she finally killed Snow White's mother. And she was also pregnant at the time, so one of the dwarfs decided to had to do a C-section in order to let the baby survive. But the poison that the witch gave her infected the baby. So the only way to bring her alive, the mother had to sacrifice herself to save her baby. So she did. And of course, Snow White's mom, the queen, tells Huntsman Gunner, played by Justin Brooks, who is also, I heard that he's a director in the movie as well. So not only that he plays one of the huntsmen, he's also a director. And he promised to protect their daughter, Snow White. And then years later, Snow White is fully grown, and she is played by the lovely. Damn it, I can't get her name right. This time, I'm not going to be pronouncing it wrong. I always have a habit of pronouncing people's names wrong, so I'm going to look it up and see if I'm going to get it right. Sanae Loutsis. That is playing Snow White. Now, I gotta say about Sanae, she is very lovely and very talented actress. I mean, she did pull off a good British accent in this movie. And of course, one thing I do have to say about Sanae, now I know she gets this a lot, but when she makes herself look like Snow White, she kind of has like this Selena Gomez thing going on there. I mean, if somebody ever decided to do a better Disney Snow White, they should have cast Selena Gomez because she has experience with Disney's before. The movie would have been a whole lot better if they cast Selena Gomez, but this is good enough. And Sanae did an outstanding job playing Snow White. And my hat's off to you. Hats off to you, girl. Well done. And of course, she becomes the princess of the people. That means she's becoming more like one of those royal people who is down to earth, who rather be with the people than be in the throne. And he meets this good-looking prince, which they call him Prince. Don't call him Prince Charming or anything. And this prince is played by Tristan Knox. And of course, he has two of his buddies with him, William and Jacob, played by Meckem-Miller and Christopher Burnside. They become the prince's. They become the prince buddies who is trying to find some ideas for their stories, and while they're hanging out with Snow White's girlfriends. And then we have the evil queen, played by Kelsey Edmondson. Forgive me if I didn't get your name right, ma'am. And one thing that she's hating, she's trying to make herself look beautiful, trying to be, like in the story, trying to be the fairest one of all. But she hates her stepdaughter, Snow White, because she's becoming more fair than she is. And of course, she talks to her mirror demons. And she ain't going to be doing the old mirror, mirror on the wall and all that. She just looks at this mirror, which is a mirror demons who are in that mirror. And I know that the movie itself had some topless scenes. Not Snow White. Don't worry, she ain't gonna get naked, thank God. But these mirror demons, they're very topless, and they're played by um Michaela Porter, Carrie Murphy. I mean Carrie Murphy, and of course Shania Ree Stewart's. Those are the girls who are playing the mirror demons, and they start telling her that that Snow White's going to be the fairest one of all. And of course, as usual, the queen is planning to become beautiful as always. So she sends her huntsman, including huntsman Gunner, to go down and capture one of Snow White's friends. Because she's going to do Elizabeth Bathory here, have a literal bloodbath. And of course, she even noticed that Gunner was also, turns out that he has a relationship with one of the handmaidens, which the queen gets really pissed off about. So she had her handmaidens pull out her teeth because she noticed her teeth was getting pretty bad. So she decided to take the teeth out of one of her handmaidens. Wow. And then when the couple. And now Snow White made her escape while the prince is trying to gathered some of the men who is going to help him find Snow White because of the huntsman. So Snow White and one of her friends went out in the woods, but sadly her friend got killed by the tree creatures. But when the huntsman found Snow White, out come the seven dwarfs, and that's something that they decided to stick with. Have dwarves playing dwarves, unlike with Peter Dinklage, who had to bitch about it in the original movie. I'm sorry. I have a problem with Peter Dinklage. Sometimes he gets too big for his own britches. But of course, here are the dwarves we have here. And I'm going to name them out one by one and their character. We have, and they're not named Sleepy, Dopey, Happy, and all the others. Their name is Grimrod, played by Michael DeSanto. We have Arsta. I mean, yeah, Arsta, played by the lovely Ellie Chapman. Sonny, played by Dylan Moore. Oh, and the lovely Pollen, played by Risa Me. I think I got her last name right. And of course, Dozer, played by Jerry Hollum. Bo, played by Colin Miller. And of course, the big one, Tiny, played by Eric Poe. And I have to say, they put some more action into it because when Snow White was being captured by the huntsman, these dwarfs showed up and they don't pull no punches. I mean, they kick ass with their weapons, just killing every single huntsman and leaving one alive so they can send a message to the queen. And at first they thought Snow White was a spy, but they finally realized that she's definitely the Snow White. And of course, I know Grimwood is giving her a hard time, so I guess he's grumpy in the bunch. but but Arsta, she knows that she is Snow White because she helped her mother back then. And then when the prince and William and Jacob and a couple of other guys are going out to find Snow White, they're all getting, I mean, most of the prince's men are getting killed by the tree creatures. So it's up to the dwarf to go out and try to help some people. And of course, Grimwood kept telling her, "Do not clean his bed. Do not clean under his bed. Don't clean under his pillow." I mean, he was being strict with her, but at the end, he does say he find her kind of cute. Oh, that's so sweet. hmm. But at the same time, the queen, she decided to turn back into the evil witch, and it's the evil witch that was by Meredith Bender. She got into the forest, killed one of the young boys who was willing to go save the princess, and then she met Snow White. And you know how this is going to go, offering her an apple and ask her to take a bite, but Snow White, being smart she refused, so she gives her the apple by force, and she did bite it, and she was passed out. And of course, she took the queen away, while at the same time, one of her huntsmen took one of Snow White's friends and did a literal bloodbath on her. That's right, she did the Elizabeth Bathory on one of Snow White's friends. So now the prince and the dwarf got reunited, along with William and Jacob, and they decided they know that the queen is behind this, so now they're ready to kick the queen's ass. So now the prince, William and Jacob, and the dwarfs decided to go and ready to kick some ass. So they start marching into the castle, and sadly, Tiny died while holding up the gate to let the prince and the dwarfs in. And even the prince thanked Tiny for sacrificing himself to open up the gates to get them in, because he had like a couple of arrows shot right in his chest. Rest in peace, Tiny. But anyway, everybody started fighting inside the castle until The queen heard from the mirror demon saying, "If you want to be the fairest one of all, you must cut out the heart of Snow White and eat her heart." And of course, when the dwarf showed up, she's about ready to grab the sword and impale Snow White, but Grimwood jumped in and sacrificed himself to save Snow White. Rest in peace, Grimwood. That's a noble thing. That's one thing that's one thing you should know about stories about heroes. Most of the time, the most noble and most loyal heroes are the ones who put their lives on the line by sacrificing themselves to save others. But the prince, she grabbed Snow White and got her out of the queen's throne room and take her out in the woods where her mother was buried, where her mother died. And he knows about the spell because Astra told him that the only way the spell can be broken is he has to sacrifice himself to save her by giving her the true love's kiss in order to get the poison out of her. So, the prince did the noble thing in the world. He kissed her, and now she has wakened. Rest in peace, Prince. But anyway, Snow White finally marched all the way to the throne room, and every time when Snow White and the dwarfs is ready to attack the queen, she kept doing her spells to stop them. And then she ordered somebody to kill Snow White and give her her heart, but the huntsman Gunner decided to do it. He walked up to Snow White, and it looked like he did kill her and cut out her heart, but it turns out he was still loyal because he remembered the promise that he made with Snow White's mom. So it turns out that the heart that he took out was one of the fallen troops who died in battle. He just took the heart of one of the troops and he gave it to the queen. And when the queen took a bite, it didn't work because it was the wrong heart. And when she was about ready to do another spell, Pollen grabs the mirror and her spell just hit the mirror. It was like a boing flip moment, and she gets hit by her own spell, so now she's paralyzed. And the dwarf, now this is pretty gruesome, folks. So I'm not recommending any kids to watch this because I mean heck, the queen turned into an old witch, an evil witch, and that actress who played the witch, she went topless. And she's pretty much on the list on the most disturbing naked old women, along with the woman in the bathtub in The Shining and Kathy Bates on something about Schmidt. Yeah, I seen them. But anyway, the dwarf, they tied her hands so she would not move them, and then they put their hooks on her chest, and they cut open the skin of her chest, showing her lungs, her heart, and everything. And then they put the mirror right in front of her so she can see how ugly she's getting. And the queen kept saying, "Go ahead and kill me." But Snow White said, "No, we have too many deaths in our lives. Your hatred brings more deaths, and she can't take that anymore. So she's going to leave the queen by herself." And while the queen was looking in the mirror, just like the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, my favorite story of all time, she was like, "I'm melting, melting, oh, what a world, 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 what a world." I mean, she melted in the most gruesome way you can ever imagine. So now, Snow White is now queen, and she honored the dwarves for saving her life and protecting her, and even helped her out during this fight against the evil queen. And of course, here's the shocker. The prince's friend, William and Jacob, they're the brothers Grimm. Ha! Who would have thunk it? Well, that's cool. So, so the so Snow White went back into the forest where the prince kissed her, and she said every time when she's in this forest, she feels like the spirit of her mom is with her, and now she's in that. So now she went back in that forest, and now she feels that the spirit of the prince who sacrificed himself to save her is there. So now she's dancing with the prince in the woods. The end. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I gotta say that is a pretty damn good adaptation of Snow White. And I tip my hat to the people who made it. And saying this as a Grimm, you really outdone yourself. You did the most outstanding adaptation of Snow White ever. And that's from a Grimm. I don't know if I'm a descendant of them or not, but it is my 100% thumbs up on that movie. But of course, after that, there's one thing I am going to mention, and it's the biggest elephant in the room. I mean, not many people realize that a long time ago, Walt Disney, I mean, when he, when he created his animation, his inspiration of making that cartoon movie of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs came from an old silent film back in 1916, the silent version of Snow White, which inspired him to make the cartoon version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And I know about the actress who does her voice, I hope I got her name right, Adriana Casalado. I mean, she did the voice of Snow White and she was never credited, but she didn't hold that against Disney. She was just happy to do the voice of Snow White, and that was it. And if Walt Disney seen the 2025 adaptation live action of Rachel Ziegler in that movie, he would have been spinning in his grave and complaining and saying how terrible that piece of shit is! All because Peter Dinklage don't even know when to keep his mouth shut over actors who wants to play dwarves. And even Rachel Ziegler, she doesn't even know when to shut up! And of course, one thing that really bothers me the most, they didn't call them dwarves in the movie, they call them magical creatures. Magical creatures? Why don't they just call them gnomes? Because if you ever looked at it, gnomes do look like dwarfs. They would have been called Snow White and the Seven Gnomes for all I care. But I love Gal Gadot. I don't care what anybody else says. Gal Gadot, I've heard with her playing the evil queen, she had a ball. She did an outstanding job as the queen, and that was the most entertaining thing in the movie. My hat's off to you, Gal Gadot. Oh yeah, another thing. But of course, speaking as a, I can tolerate the evil queen in Snow White. At least she ain't like Lady Tremaine from Cinderella. Ugh, I really freaking hate her. Ugh, ever since I saw her in that Cinderella movie, I hate her with a passion. I want to I want to put my hands right around her neck and give her throat a good squeeze, rip her head off, rip her hair out of her scalp, gouge her eyes out, and use her head for a bowling ball. She pissed me off this bad. And also Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Oh, I want to grab a shovel and whack him in the face for all those good looks of his. Because how stupid he is. And also use the tip of the shovel and stab him in the chest and rip out his heart. Sorry, folks, sometimes some Disney villains do piss me off, and Lady Tremaine and Gaston piss me off to no end! That's why every time when I play Kingdom Heart and I'm battling against Tremaine, and when I battled against her, I was like, in your face, bitch! But if I make my own version of Snow White, you know me, I mean, even though I do like telling stories and I do write my own stories and such, you guys know that I'm more into science fiction. So, I mean, I think less of fantasy and more into science fiction, folks. So, if I made my own version of Snow White, I would probably make it like Snow White and the Seven Aliens, where the evil queen, which now she is the evil empress, and she rules one planet and trying to be the most fairest one in the galaxy, but Snow White turned out to be the fairest one in the galaxy and ends up in a planet full of dwarf-like aliens. And of course, have a I always have a fascination towards science fiction interspecies kind of thing. So she would fall in love with an alien who is from the same planet as the dwarves, who he himself is the prince of his planet. But one thing I think I'm going to be doing in my own version of the story, make Grumpy be the good guy. Like if the evil empress have Snow White eat the apple and it made her pass out, and the dwarf noticing what the queen did. One thing I'll be doing in my version is Grumpy being like, "The queen? When does she ever stop? That's it. I'm coming over and teach that bitch a lesson." And of course the other dwarf is like, "What got into you?" And they said, "What got into me? It's Snow White. She's the most fairest one of all, and I don't want her dying in my watch. So what do you say, dwarf? How about we gather together and take this queen and show her what we're made of?" And of course Dopey would sign with him, and of course making Grumpy be more heroic in the story. I don't know, I mean, sometimes I like to make Grumpy be the hero in my version. But that's just me. So, this is my review of the Multi-Voice-Oween. If any of you like my review of The Death of Snow White, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe for more, and stay tuned for more Halloween specials for me to review, because I've watched a lot of good horror movies or even horror comedy movies that I am itching to review. So I'm the Multi-Voice Reviewer. I remember it so I can jog in memory.